The stars shimmered outside the viewport of the UTS horizon as it entered orbit around Veltrax 9. The planet glowed a soft green and blue, covered in thick forests and sparkling lakes. It looked untouched, like a paradise frozen in time. Commander Alara Voss stood on the observation deck, her arms crossed behind her back. She was tall, with sharp eyes and a calm face. Her uniform was neat, every badge in place. But her mind was not at ease. "First contact in 5 minutes," came the voice of Lieutenant Bren from the control room. Alara nodded but said nothing. Veltrax 9 had been known to human explorers for years. Scans showed intelligent life, peaceful, technologically advanced, but completely unarmed. The Volari, as they were called, had no history of war. They lived in harmony, focused on art, science, and nature. The United Terran Alliance had labeled them high-value allies. Officially, this mission was about peace and diplomacy. The Horizon carried scientists, translators, and cultural officers. But Alara, a tactical commander, had been placed on the mission too. That raised a quiet question in her mind. Why send a warship to a peaceful planet? Moments later, the Volari delegation arrived on the ship. They stepped out of a glowing transport pod, tall, elegant beings with smooth silver-blue skin and large, gentle eyes. Their movements were slow, graceful, like waves in space. "Welcome, friends," the lead Volari said, his voice calm and musical. "We are honored to meet the people of Earth." Captain Ryland, standing next to Alara, smiled. "We come in peace and friendship." The Volari smiled in return. No guards, no weapons, just open hands and kind words. Alara watched them carefully. There was no fear in their eyes, no suspicion, only trust. Later that day, Alara joined a small team that went down to the surface. A Volari elder named Soren greeted them personally. He guided them through floating gardens, glowing crystal structures, and peaceful villages. There were no walls, no fences, no soldiers. "This is how we live," Soren said. "In balance with our world. We have no use for war." Alara felt something stir inside her. The air was fresh. The sky was clear. These people had built a perfect society, without violence. But as night fell, and the team returned to the ship, Alara noticed something strange. A message appeared on her private screen, coded and locked under security clearance, far above her level. She tried to open it, but access was denied. She frowned. Why would such a message be sent during a peaceful mission? Later she walked down a quiet hallway. 2 senior officers passed her, whispering in low voices. Orders straight from command. Target locations marked. Their words stopped when they saw her. Alara kept walking, but her thoughts raced. Something wasn't right. The Volari were peaceful, but the humans, they hadn't come just to talk. The next morning, Alara stood in the shuttle bay, preparing for another visit to the surface. The sun over Veltrax 9 was soft and golden, casting long shadows on the ground. The Volari were waiting again, smiling, peaceful as always. Alara joined a small team, led by Cultural Officer Lin. Today's visit was to a learning center in the city of Valant. The city floated gently above a river, supported by magnetic fields. It was quiet, clean, and full of beauty. Inside the learning center, children gathered around a glowing table. Holograms danced in the air, stars, animals, music. One small Volari child walked up to Alara. "Do you like music?" the child asked, holding up a crystal instrument. Alara knelt down. "Yes, I do." The child played a soft melody. It was slow, simple, and beautiful. Alara smiled, but she felt a tightness in her chest. These people were not preparing for war. They were not hiding weapons. They were sharing music. Later, Elder Soren gave the team a tour of the city's memory chambers, rooms filled with glowing orbs. Each orb held a moment in Volari history. "We store knowledge, not pain," Soren explained. "We do not record acts of violence. We do not speak of war." Alara looked at the rows of orbs. None of them were red, none flickered in anger. She thought of Earth's war museums, filled with weapons and blood-stained flags. This was different, completely different. As they returned to the ship, Alara's mind was filled with questions. Why would Earth plan anything violent here? Back on the horizon, Alara went to the command hub. She waited until the room was nearly empty, then approached a terminal. She inserted her security key and tried again to access the locked message. Access denied. Clearance level, Omega 1. Omega 1. That was Admiral Creed's level. Alara frowned. She left the hub and walked the lower halls of the ship, pretending to inspect systems. Two officers passed her, Commander Yates and Lieutenant Marrow. They didn't see her hiding in the shadow near the power conduit. Coordinates matched the Volari energy sites, Marrow whispered. We'll strike all of them in the first wave, Yates replied. Creed says they won't even see it coming. Alara's heart pounded. She stepped back silently, moved away before they saw her. She returned to her quarters and locked the door. The ship felt colder now, quieter. The hum of the engines sounded like a warning. She tapped her tablet, opened the crew manifest, and searched for keywords: targeting systems, orbital strike, Volari sites. Dozens of restricted files, none accessible. She stared at the screen, her jaw tight. If these files were real, and the whispers true, then humanity wasn't here for peace. They were planning an invasion, and no one was stopping it. Alara barely slept. The silence of her quarters felt heavy, like a weight pressing down on her chest. She kept seeing the faces of the Volari in her mind. The child with the crystal instrument, Elder Soren's calm voice, the peaceful floating city of Volant. And she kept hearing the whispered words from the hallway. Strike all of them in the first wave. They won't even see it coming. The next morning, she stood at her console on the Horizon's command deck. Screens blinked softly with ship diagnostics and crew updates. But Alara wasn't watching the systems. She was watching the people. Commander Yates spoke quietly with another officer. Lieutenant Marrow entered the bridge, gave Alara a glance, then turned away. They knew. She needed answers. And she needed them now. Alara sent a direct message to Admiral Creed's private line, using an urgent flag only available to senior officers. Moments later, she received a reply. Commander Voss. Report to Secure Briefing Room 7. Immediately. She arrived within minutes. The door hissed shut behind her. Admiral Dorian Creed stood at the head of the long black table. He was a tall man in his early 60s, with silver hair and sharp, unreadable eyes. His uniform was perfect. Not a wrinkle, not a spot. Sit, he said flatly. Alara sat. Her voice was steady. Sir, I've reviewed mission data and overheard conversations about orbital strikes. I need to understand what's going on. Creed didn't flinch. He placed a small cube on the table and tapped it. A hologram appeared. Veltrax 9, marked with red dots. Key energy sites, he said. Volari power cores. Shield nodes. Command hubs. Alara stared at the image. We told them we came in peace. We told them what they needed to hear. Creed replied coldly. They don't have defenses. No weapons. Their resources are vast. Energy-rich, untouched. The Council authorized the operation. They trust us, Alara said. You're planning to attack innocent people. Creed leaned forward. His voice was calm, but hard. You think Earth rose to power by being kind. We survive because we act before others do. The Volari could be a threat in 100 years. We can't afford that risk. They're peaceful, Alara said, anger rising in her voice. For now, Creed said. Peace ends when it's no longer useful. Alara stood. I won't be part of this. Creed's eyes narrowed. You swore an oath to follow orders, Commander. If you refuse, you'll be stripped of your rank, charged with treason. Do you understand what that means? Alara's hands were clenched at her sides. I understand, she said quietly. But I didn't sign up to murder children. Creed tapped the console. The door hissed open. Two security officers stood outside. Stur dismissed, Commander. Turn to duty. Alara walked out without a word, her heart racing. Back in her quarters, she locked the door and sat in the dark. Her hands trembled. It's true, Earth was not here to make peace. They were here to conquer, and no one else seemed willing to stop it. She opened her comms pad and stared at the screen. There was only one option left. Warn the Volari. Ilara moved through the ship like a shadow. The lights in the corridor glowed softly, but every footstep felt loud. Her heart beat fast. She knew every security camera's range, every blind spot. Years of tactical training were now being used against her own people. She reached engineering without being seen. Inside, the hum of the ship's core masked her voice. She found Ensign Mila Tran near a panel. Mila was young, sharp, and one of the few people Ilara trusted. "I need your help," Ilara whispered. "But you need to know, if you say no, I walk away right now." Mila's eyes narrowed. "This is about the attack, isn't it?" Ilara nodded. "It's real. The orders come straight from Creed. The fleet arrives in less than 48 hours. Mila didn't speak at first. Then she looked around and said quietly, "What do you need me to do?" Ilara handed her a data chip. "I need limited access to the ship's comm relay. Just enough to send a warning, encrypted, undetectable." Mila stared at the chip. Then she tucked it into her sleeve. "Meet me in the relay bay in 20 minutes. Ilara nodded and left. 20 minutes later, they stood in the small relay control room. Mila plugged in the chip and bypassed the system's alert triggers. Ilara typed quickly. Her fingers steady now. The message was short. "Soren, the humans are planning to attack. Their warships arrive in 2 days. Prepare your people. Hide your power centers. Do not trust our ship. I am trying to stop this." Ilara. She pressed send. The message vanished into space, carried by a tight, silent burst of data. There was no going back. That night, Ilara met secretly with 2 more crew members. Light, Rami, and Tech Officer Jera. Both had doubts, both had overheard things, and both agreed to help. Together they worked on a plan. Rami would disable the ship's targeting systems at the last moment. Jera would loop the security feeds to hide what they were doing. Every second mattered. The next day, as the horizon orbited silently, a Volari shuttle approached the ship. Soren was aboard. He met with Ilara in a storage bay, away from security cameras. "We received your warning," he said gently. "We do not wish to fight, but we will protect our world." "You don't have weapons," Ilara said. Soren nodded. "Not weapons as you know them. Long ago, before we chose peace, we built defensive systems. They still sleep beneath our cities. They were meant to protect, never harm." Ilara looked at him. "You need to activate them. Now." Soren touched her shoulder. "You are not like the others." She didn't answer. There was nothing left to say. Hours later, Admiral Creed stood on the bridge, watching stars drift by. "Ilara Voss," he said over the intercom. "Report to my office." Ilara froze. Had he discovered the message? Instead of obeying, she turned and ran. Alarms began to blare. Security breach. Commander Voss is now considered hostile. She raced through the halls as red lights flashed. Mila's voice came through her earpiece. "They're tracking you. I've scrambled some of the sensors, but not for long." Ilara reached the shuttle bay. The guards were already there. She ducked behind a crate and tapped her comm. "Rami, now." A flash systems blinked off for 3 seconds. She sprinted to the shuttle, dove inside, and launched before anyone could stop her. Through the glass, she saw the horizon growing smaller behind her. Ahead, Veltrax 9 waited. The skies were quiet, but not for long. Ilara's shuttle broke through Veltrax 9's atmosphere in silence. The skies were calm, painted in soft purple clouds and twin suns glowing in the distance. Below, the ground shimmered with light as the Volari cities prepared for what was coming. She landed near the capital city of Volant. Elder Soren and several other Volari were already waiting. "We've activated the old defenses," Soren said. "They are not meant to destroy, only disable. Still, this goes against everything we believe." "I understand," Ilara said quietly. "But if you don't act, they'll take everything from you." She looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there, the fleet was coming. Aboard the UTS Horizon, alarms began to ring. Multiple warp signatures detected. An officer shouted. Admiral Creed stood at the center of the command deck, hands behind his back, face hard. On the screen, 11 warships appeared out of nothing. Black metal giants with sharp edges and glowing engines. "The fleet has arrived," said the tactical officer. "Awaiting your command." Creed nodded. "Target the Volari energy sites. Prepare for orbital strike." Suddenly, systems began to glitch. "Sir, our targeting arrays just went offline." Creed turned sharply. "What? It's a systems failure or sabotage. I can't lock on to targets." Creed's face turned cold. "Voss." Down on Veltrax 9, the skies lit up. The human warships tried to lock onto targets, but the Volari's old defense systems activated. Glowing shields surrounded the cities. High-frequency pulses filled the air, invisible but strong. The lead Terran ship flickered, its power systems scrambled. One by one, weapons went dark. Inside the ships, confusion spread. "We're losing control of guidance systems. Shields failing." "No, not ours. Theirs. Ours are failing." Admiral Creed stared at the screen in disbelief. Then a new message came through, sent by Alara, broadcast to all ships in the fleet. "You were told these people had no defenses. That was a lie. They are not enemies. They are peaceful, and we are the invaders. Think about why you joined this fleet. Think about who we're becoming." Silence filled the bridge. Creed growled. "Cut the transmission. Prepare boarding teams. We'll take the planet by force." But his orders were too late. Across the fleet, captains began to hesitate. One by one, ships powered down weapons. Officers refused to fire. Some crews cheered Alara's message. Others stood still, unsure. Creed barked into the comm. "All ships follow orders or face court-martial." No one answered. Then slowly, the fleet began to turn. One ship jumped back into warp. Then another. Within minutes, more than half the fleet had left. Creed slammed his fist on the console. "Cowards," he hissed. He turned to the bridge crew. "Set a course for Earth. We're leaving." On the surface, Ilara watched the sky as the warships vanished, one by one. The Volari beside her breathed sighs of relief. "You stopped them," Soren said. "No," Ilara replied. "We did it together." The sky returned to peace, the clouds moving slowly again. But everything had changed. The warships were gone. The skies over Veltrax 9 were clear again, calm and quiet. The storm had passed without a single shot fired. But the damage wasn't measured in fire. It was measured in trust. Alara stood at the edge of a crystal bridge in Velanth, looking out over the floating city. The sun reflected on the water below. She had removed her uniform. It no longer felt right. She wore simple clothes now, soft, light, and made by Volari hands. Behind her, Elder Soren approached. "It is over," he said gently. Alara nodded. For now, Creed had returned to Earth. He would report what happened. She would be branded a traitor, maybe even hunted, but she had no regrets. "They will call me a criminal," she said. "To us," Soren replied. "You are something else, a protector, a bridge between our worlds." Word of what happened spread fast. Across the United Terran Alliance, people asked questions. Why had a peaceful mission turned toward war? Why had one of their own officers risked everything to stop it? Some saw Alara as a traitor. Others saw her as a hero. On Veltrax 9, life slowly returned to normal. But things were not the same. The Volari had seen the truth behind human promises, and Alara had seen the price of loyalty when it was given to the wrong cause. Weeks later, a small Volari child ran up to her as she sat under a tall silver tree. He held a glowing crystal in his hand, the same one he used to play music. "Commander Alara," he said, "will the humans come back?" Alara looked at the sky. It was quiet, but she knew silence could break. "Maybe," she said, "but not all of them will come to hurt you. Some will come to help. Some will come to learn." The child tilted his head. "Will humans ever stop fighting?" Alara was quiet for a long time. Then she smiled softly. "Only when more of us choose peace over power," she said. "Only when we stop following orders that break our hearts." The child sat beside her and began to play the crystal instrument again. The notes floated through the air, light and gentle. Above them, the sky shimmered, and far away, back on Earth, change had already begun.